So hello everyone, my name is Bill Spencer. I manage the strategic accounts for the Microsoft Teams engineering organization. And today Marcus and Ruby from Valorum are going to help me present Microsoft Teams as the hub for teamwork in Office 365. Now, some of you may be saying, well, why do I need another collaboration tool in Office? I have Outlook, I have Skype for Business, I have Yammer. Why Teams? Well, the answer is that the marketplace is really asking for, requiring of us that we manage more complex projects with a more complex project team. So the projects themselves have more moving parts, but also the team may include people who work in different offices. Maybe those are separated by an ocean, so quite a significant time difference. We also have customers and suppliers and partners who want to be or need to be members of the project team. And Microsoft Teams is designed to address that need. So it's only a year old, a little over a year, and already there's over 200,000 organizations that are using Teams in over 180 markets. So it's broadly used, and it's actually the fastest growing version 1 enterprise product in Microsoft's history. And the reason it's growing so fast is a few things. One is it is designed as a cross-platform tool. So it's written as a web service to the requirements of today's security and compliance. And it's also available on the Windows, Mac, and mobile desktops. So the same features ship simultaneously on the web as well as Mac and Windows. And then we have native applications written for iOS and Android that are really great additional ways of collaborating. So it's designed so that you can collaborate with anyone, anytime, any place that you have an internet connection. And these are the design goals for Teams. That it be the one place for all of your team activity, combining chat, apps, and meetings. And it's integrated with the Office 365. So we call it the hub for teamwork in Office 365 because each chat room in Microsoft Teams can be customized with a variety of first-party applications from Office as well as third-party applications. We have over 250 integrations with Microsoft Teams so that you can use Asana or Jira or GitHub or a variety of other services as additional components of your chat room. And each chat room can have its own set of services. Whatever information the team needs to collaborate around that particular topic or project. And finally, it's all based on enterprise security and compliance. So Teams was written from the ground up so that the data would be encrypted at rest, and the data is encrypted over the wire. So that's supporting the EU model clauses. We also have audit reports from the ISO and SOC standards bodies showing that Microsoft Teams supports the highest level of security and compliance requirements such as HIPAA and FERPA, and most recently GDPR. So with that, I'm going to ask Marcus to take over the screen. Marcus and Ruby work for a company named Valorum, and they're a partner of ours that has been helping a number of Microsoft Teams customers automate their sales force using Microsoft Teams. And I really appreciate them joining today. Expanding a little bit on the idea of these multiple clients, I recommend that you have Teams running both in a desktop as well as your browser. Whenever I'm working, I will, Alt-Tab between those two environments. And particularly if I'm joining another company as a guest, I'll be using either the mobile client, where the switching between tenants is quite easy, or I'll be using a mobile browser, or I'll be using a browser such as the Edge or Chrome browser in anonymous or in private mode, so that I have single sign-on in my own organization, and then I can have a browser in anonymous mode going to another organization, and I'm not conflicting with my single sign-on. Okay, so if you cannot see the Marcus's desktop right now, I recommend you exit Teams in order to refresh your the video feed. And again, I encourage everyone to mute their phones or their desktops. All right, so let's go through the three major regions of Teams from left to right. The dark purple column on the far left is called the app bar. And we have, the key apps for Teams, including activity, chat, Teams, meetings, files, and we'll talk about most of these depending on how much time we have. Choosing one of those apps, as Marcus has chosen Teams, it populates the white column, so we can see that Marcus is the member of two teams. And you can tell it that the team header, because there is an icon like the yellow icon for sales operations and the green icon for the marketing team. And there's also an obvious more menu, or the ... on the right side of that white column. And actually, those ... are present for channels, they're present for individual posts, individual files. So you'll see them quite often, but in this case, they're often hidden until you hover on the right side of a particular object. And we'll demonstrate that as we go through. Now, some may be asking, well, what is a team? Well, don't be intimidated. A team is just like a distribution list in email. So it's a collection of people. It can be as many as 2,500 people, and that can include guests as well as employees, and either be members or owners. And if you're the owner of a team, you have the ability to set the privileges of the members and guests in that particular team. So Marcus is on two teams, sales operation and marketing team. And then when you create a team, there's always an initial channel or chat room that's created, and that's called the general channel. And the general channel is also a log for everything that goes on in the team. So when new members are added, when new channels are added, those things are logged in the general channel. And that's why I always recommend people go beyond the general channel and at least create one or two additional channels that describe the projects or topics that the team is collaborating on. Now, in general, I think fewer teams and fewer channels are better. So, once you get beyond that 2 or 3 beyond the general channel, be careful about how many you add, because what you really want is a volume of conversation in a particular channel. Now, when you click on an item in the, as Marcus has clicked on the Contoso reseller channel, it then populates the light blue area on the right side, and that's called the main arena. And we'll get to that in a moment. But I wanted to talk about some of these other aspects of the left rail, the white column. And that is when there's something new that Marcus hasn't read or any user hasn't read, their channel will be in bold. So you can see that two of these channels, Contoso Resellers under Sales Operation and the General Channel under Marketing Team, are in bold because there's some unread items. And there's also a place where you can store those channels that you don't read very often. And those are called that's called the more channel bucket, if you will. And at the bottom of Sales Operations, you can see there's the option for one more channel. Marcus, if you could just click on one more channel under Sales Operations, it shows the M400. If you want to add that to your default lineup, you can make it a favorite by clicking on the star, and that will add it. And you could just reverse that process if you wanted to click on the ... You can see there's a hidden one there, remove it as a favorite, and that puts it back into the more channel bucket. And I have teams where I might look at 20 channels, but then there might be an additional 70 channels that I have in that more bucket. And the limit on the number of channels is 200. But there is no limit to the number of teams you can be on. So each individual can organize their teams in the orders that make sense to them, and they can choose which channels are listed by favoriting or unfavoriting them. Now, the channels after the general channel are listed in alphanumeric order. And I'll give an example later of how you can create some sort of sort order to your channels. Otherwise, it's just in alpha order. But if Marcus wanted to put the marketing team above sales operation, he can click and drag and put it up on top. He can also compress a given team if he wants to free up some space by clicking on the little caret on the left side of the team header. Okay, so I think we've exhausted the left rail. We'll come back to the join and create teams at the very bottom and the icon up at the top later on. But let's focus on the main arena. So that takes up about 60% of the screen on the right side. And let's start by looking at the search box at the top of the blue column. And Marcus, let's put in a search for collateral, just to show how the search box works. I run searches quite often, and we can see when we do this, it gives us the results in the left rail. So clicking on those results, it takes us to that particular conversation, and it actually expands the conversation, and we'll show that in just a moment. It also shows any people. I kind of doubt there's any people. Those things across the top are like tabs, and clicking on files, you can see there's also a file with the word collateral. And the search will look for conversations, and those could be conversations in Teams, as we're in right now, be in chat messages, and it could be in files. And over time, we're going to expand federating search more, but for right now, it covers those things as well as the address book. All right, so that's the first item at the top, the search box, and there's about 5 of these. Going down to the next row, there's sales operation greater than Contoso resellers, and sales operation is the name of the team, and Contoso resellers is the name of the channel. Now he can click on that item in the sales operations in the this is called the navigation bar, and that shows the members of the team. Why don't you click the arrow in the upper left in order to go back, and you can use those forward and back arrows to navigate through teams. That's particularly handy when we're working in tabs, as we'll show a little bit later. And you'll notice under sales operation, it's noted that this team has guests. So that's a good thing to be aware of, because those guests could be customers, they could be suppliers, they could be contractors. But it's always good to know your audience. And then beneath that is the tab line with conversations, files, and a plus sign for adding additional tabs. And we will go into that in some pretty good detail in a little bit. And if we look at the body of the main arena, we can see that there's a thread that Ali Ballou started. Now, to free up a little space in the main arena, Marcus can click on collapse all, and he can toggle back and forth. So you can see that you can free up some space. The default is actually collapsed unless you did a search on a particular word, as we did on collateral, and then that opens up the whole thread. But you can open up these threads and find places where you were mentioned, or topics of particular interest. The reason you can go with relatively few channels is because in Teams you can see that the conversations are threaded. So in channels, there's a number of threads, and Marcus could reply to one of these. For example, on call volume, he could click reply, and that opens up a reply box, and he can put in a quick note there and hit return and add to that thread, and he can expand that thread if he wants to see the previous conversation. But it's a good idea before you jump in and start a new thread that you do a search and make sure that there are no threads already on that topic. I like to add to existing threads because it keeps the whole conversation together. If someone wants to join later and is trying to get up to speed on how a particular decision was made, it's helpful for them to see everything in one thread. So we've got, see, 1, 2, 3 threads here from Allie, Jamie, and Ruby are the 3 threads we see. And then at the bottom is a white box for starting a new thread. That's called the compose box. And we'll talk about that and the line right beneath it, which is for adding some additional capabilities to a particular post in a little bit more detail. All right, so let's click on Teams in the app bar just to get ourselves out of the search that we're in. And this puts us back into the view of the teams and channels. And let's click on Join or Create Team. Now, some of you may see only Join a Team, and that's because your IT department has centralized the ability to create teams. And I'm sure you have some process for requesting the creation of a team. Some of you also, when you click on this, may see a number of teams that are the public teams listed here in this view in the main arena that are teams you can join without getting the permission of the owner. And those could be general teams like, say, training teams. And that's exactly what we're going to create now. Let's click on Create Team button and create the Training 31. That's great, and we can skip the description right now, but for privacy we definitely want to make this a public team. So those are your 2 options, and that means other people in the organization can join without permission. And you'll notice that there's a new feature that just shipped, which is create a team using an existing team as a template. That's a really helpful way for duplicating the types of channels, the tabs, and you can even bring over additional members from an existing team. So if you have some repeat process, like a particular way of managing projects, you can implement that with this create a team using the existing team as a template, and you could have a template of a particularly good project team and then duplicate it. And it's your option as to whether you want to add the tabs, the channels, the members from that other team, and you can toggle those on and off. You can also create a team using an existing Office 365 group. So, if you've created a group, you can build on Teams capability on top of it. But we'll just click Next here and create the Training 31 team. And let's add Ruby to that team. And it's always important to have at least 2 owners for a team in case the original, the person who created the team is out of the office. So let's promote Ruby from a member to being an owner as well. And we can click Close. Great. So let's welcome everyone to the training team. We can type that in the Compose box. And I encourage Ruby to reply to that message in her typical witty way. Now, let's just focus a moment on the buttons across the top, the yellow, blue, and pink buttons. Those are helpful for everyone to add more people, to create more channels, to open the frequently asked questions. And let's click on Create More Channels. So they're not just pretty pictures, they're actually functional. And since we're doing training, let's add a channel on attendees. Great, we can click Add to that. And we also can create one for the budget. And to do that, we'll go to the More menu, so the ... at the team header level, and we can see their options are to remove this team as a favorite, to manage the team, to add a channel, add members, leave the team, edit the team, get a link to the team, delete the team. Let's choose Add Channel, and we'll add the budget channel. Great. And then, just to show everyone there's other ways to get to the same thing, let's click on Training 31 in the navigation at the top. and this takes us into and that dot 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 there is for the team level, and we can choose add channel again, and let's call this the 1-urgent team. And the reason we're putting the 1- before is it will, and then before you click add, choose automatically favorite this channel for the whole team. So we want to make this a very prominent channel. So we're putting the 1 in front of it so that it changes the sort order. Go ahead, click add. And you can see that now urgent is listed right below general. And the other nice thing is everyone who joins the team will have this team listed as one of the favorites. So it'll be very prominent. All right, now let's click on General Channel just to get back into our original post here. And let's describe everyone the urgent channel. And to do that, let's click on the A with the pen under the word Start. Great. So this expands the compose note to the compose form, and we can add a subject line like urgent channel as a subject line. And then notice the helpful reminder here that when you start a new conversation, you should type an @ to mention someone. So let's start by typing @ and then Ruby's name, no space. And that, you can see, resolves to her name. We can backspace over her last name to keep it informal, comma. And I'll show you two other kinds of @ mentions. You can also @ and then start to type the word channel, and it will resolve to the name of this channel, which is general, comma, and then @ and start to type the word team, and it will resolve to training 31. Perfect. So now we've @ mentioned Ruby, everyone who's a member of general channel, which is actually everyone on the team, and then the training team as well. So the last two are a little bit redundant, but it's good to show the examples. If I was in, say, the attendees channel and did an @ mention for the training, that would get potentially a different set of users. Okay, so let's post, hi everyone, I have created an urgent channel to keep us all on the same page. Carriage return, please follow it. Excellent. Okay. So let's show everyone how to follow a channel. And this is what's really a helpful thing when you're just getting started in Teams, is to have a urgent channel or an escalations channel that will pull people in, even those who might be used to working in Outlook and may not be checking Teams as often as they should. When you follow a channel, you'll get a notification every time someone posts in that channel. So let's leave this message in compose form and go over to the urgent channel, and we can show how to set this channel as one that you follow. And to do that, you click on the ... That's right. That's sort of hidden for the individual channel level. And the options here are to remove this channel as a favorite, to edit this channel, to work with connectors in the channel, get an email address, get a link, delete this channel, follow this channel. Let's choose that last item, to follow this channel. And what that does is it will automatically put a post in activity, and you can see there's already one there for Marcus for something else. And if you don't read that post within a certain period of time, it will send you an email message. And that's a great way to pull people in from Outlook. So that's how you follow a channel. Now let's get a link to the channel. And to do that, let's click on, we can, I was just going to show the other way to get to that menu. Click on Urgent Channel to navigate to it. There we go. And now we can go to the ... exactly. And then same options with the addition of get a link to the channel there. So let's get a link to this channel, copy that into the clipboard. We can use the back arrows in the upper left to get back to our post. And you'll notice that this post has saved this in draft. I wouldn't leave it too long, and if I created a really long post, I would probably hit send to send it, and then I'd go in and edit it, and we'll show that in a minute. But let's select the words "an urgent channel" in the message and click on the icon that looks like two chain links, and that's how you insert a hyperlink. And we can click insert, and you'll notice the font has changed, but let's use our formatting options to make that more obvious. Let's select that text one more time, and we can hit the U to underline it and the A with the underline in order to change the font color to something more obvious. Great, okay. And now let's select please follow it, and let's use the highlighter icon to highlight that in a color to have it stand out as well. Great, okay. Now typically when I make a sort of direct request of a team like this, I use some of the fun elements to lighten it up a bit, and we'll exhaust all three of those, which is a bit over the top, but let's click on the smiley face with a circle down at the bottom there and add one of these emojis. Great. And let's click on the smiley face with a square around it to add one of the stickers. And these stickers are editable memes. I like the baby on the beach, the boy on the beach with the fist. And let's say follow as the top caption or else as the bottom caption. Great, okay. And let's click on the Giphy icon, the GIF icon there, and search on the word thank you, and insert one of these that you think is appropriate. Great, and just scroll down. Cool. And in order to send when you're in this this mode, you click on the paper airplane icon in the lower right, and that sends the message. Hitting return just adds a carriage return. All right, so we can admire Marcus's handiwork here. We've got a subject line, we have at mentions, we've used some of the formatting options and the fun options. Now let's bump this up even more prominent, and to do that we'll go to edit it. So hover in the upper right side, right near that badge, and there's a ... and the options here are to edit, delete, mark as unread, copy a link. Let's edit. And click on the exclamation mark on the formatting bar. There we go. And then the paper airplane icon to send. And this adds the word important. It puts the line on the right, on the left as a red. And then on the right side, it adds that exclamation mark. And Ruby, if you could post in the urgent channel an important message that does not include a at mention, I would appreciate it so people can see what that looks like. Great. Okay, so we've set up our urgent channel and told everyone how to follow it. And let's do some work in the budget channel. So let's click on budget, and we can customize this in a few ways. So let's start out by an at mention to Ruby. Great. Please review and approve my proposed budget by next Wednesday. And we can attach that using the paperclip. Now, every time you create a team, there is a SharePoint created in the background, and you can pull in files that are either your recent files. You can browse for other teams and channels to get files there. You can pull from your OneDrive for Business, or you can upload from your computer. Let's choose that last option and find the project budget for the training. There we go. And you'll notice there's a light green status bar right beneath the icon, and when that completes, you can hit the paper airplane icon to send it. Excellent. Now, I mentioned that each team has a SharePoint share associated with it. And in that share, there is a folder for each one of the channels. So there is a folder called Budget in the SharePoint that has all of the files that you attach to the conversation thread or that you upload into the Files tab. So let's click on the Files tab so we can see that it is the file repository for this particular channel. And this view into SharePoint has most of the features that you see in SharePoint. To see those features, we can go to the ... on the right side related to this file. And you can see that you can edit in Teams, you can open in Excel, open in SharePoint, move, copy, download, delete, etc. Let's choose that last one, which is make this a tab. And you can see it adds it as a tab right across the top. So anyone on the team can go to the budget channel and they can see right there the project budget. So it's easy to access. Now let's describe what tabs are. This is an example of a tab. Conversations, Files, and Wiki are kind of the defaults. And then Project Budget is a custom tab that Marcus has added. And think about if you had the whole team together to talk about this training project, and you wanted to talk about the plan. Typically, someone would get up to the whiteboard and they would write down, well, here are the key decisions we need to make. And the same person or someone else might write down a list of all of the action items that you capture during the course of the meeting. And typically there's some numbers or a chart. It might be the budget. It might be a timeline with key milestones. Well, each one of those lists, those decisions, tasks, budget, that you would put on a whiteboard in a physical conference room or project work room, you could think of those as tabs that you would have in this virtual workspace that Teams creates for each individual channel. So we're customizing the tabs right here in the budget channel, and we can, for example, expand this view by clicking on the up and down arrow on the right side, and that will expand the view to cover the left rail. And we can have a conversation about this particular tab by clicking on the chat icon. So we could start a conversation and say at Ruby, resolve her name. Please see item 12. Is $3,000 sufficient for legal expenses? Question mark, and hit return. So you can have a conversation right alongside a particular tab, and that keeps that context all together. We could also say to the whole team, we can say @team. Ruby is approving the budget by next Tuesday. Please give me any comments by end of day Monday. And we can hit send on that. And let's bookmark that item so that we remember to do that. So you'll notice that in addition to the ... the more menu that gives you the options of editing, deleting, marking on red, getting a link, you can also bookmark this item, and you're the only one on the team who sees your bookmarks. Okay, so this is how you can have a conversation right alongside a tab, but if Marcus, you could click on the back arrows to get us back to the budget discussion, the conversation. You click once more, there we go, and you'll see this conversation that we had right alongside the tab is consolidated in conversations, so you don't have to look at each individual tab in order to find the conversation. You can find it all right here in the conversations tab, but it's also available on a per tab basis if you have a conversation around a particular document. And I noticed that Ruby posted that she will review, but no promises on approval. Let's give her a thumbs up to acknowledge that. And we can do that using the little thumbs up. I use this quite a bit. If someone asks me to do something, typically I'll just give them a thumbs up as a form of acknowledgement. And when you do a like in that way, it captures that in the activity log. So it's easy for people to find that. And it's a lot faster than sending, thanks, will do, etc. And use of Teams is all about saving time. The only reason you'd have an additional tool in addition to Outlook and Yammer and your other tools is because it saves you time. And if you manage half a dozen different projects, odds are you'll be saving at least an hour a day using Teams, because it's just a more powerful way of managing the complexity and the team dynamics on working on particular projects. Okay, so we've given an example of we've given an example of bookmarks, we've created a team with a number of channels. Now I want to do a little bit more customization here, because I think every good channel, particularly if it's about a project, should include those three things I talked about earlier. A place to capture decisions, a place to capture numbers, a place to capture action items. So let's click on Wiki and let's rename Wiki Decisions. So if Ruby has a particular decision around the budget, she can capture it there. Actually, if you could put it right there in the, I think you went a little too fast there. Let's click on rename. You added it as, there we go. Capture it there as well. Perfect. All right. So this is a good place to capture decisions. It's Wiki's a kind of a lightweight form of OneNote. And then let's click on the plus sign and see what our options are for tracking task lists. Now, these are all of the options for tabs. Many of you might only have the first two lines because those are the services included in Office 365 by default. The tabs below are additional third-party integrations with Teams. I mentioned there's over 250 integrations all up. There's about 40-some tabs. And in this, there's quite a few good options for managing tasks, particularly for an engineering team. So we have Jira, GitHub, Asana, Visual Studio, MeisterTask, Smartsheet. So you can see there's quite a few. But the one that's included at no additional cost in Office 365 is Planner. And let's click on Planner and create a task list. And Planner is a simple Kanban board for a group of people, for a team. And it makes it easy to track where we are on tasks. Now we can toggle off the conversation by clicking that one more time, and let's add a new task called Approve Training Budget, and we can set that due date for next Tuesday, I think is what I said. There we go, and assign that to Ruby. And again, this is a way of sending a notification to Ruby for this particular task. And she'll get that notification in her activity app. All right, let's enter another task, which is create project budget. And we can set that due date for today. And just let everyone know, Marcus, that you're the one who created that project budget, in case there's any misunderstanding about it. There we go. Add that task. And let's have gather team feedback or incorporate team feedback. And we can set that due date for Monday. A little tricky skipping over the month there. There we go. And assign that to yourself. Perfect. And let's add a new bucket on the right side for tasks that are in progress. and one more for complete. And we can drag the incorporate team feedback over into in progress. And we can drag the create project budget over to complete. Perfect. Okay. So this Kanban board is so useful. Probably half of all the channels in the engineering team have a planner tab because it's just a great way of tracking one of the key aspects of any kind of collaboration. And over time, the task list may become more important than the training budget. So you can set the order for the tabs by clicking on the task list icon and just dragging it in front of project budget or decisions. That's fine. So that's a good place to put it. And everyone on the team will see these tabs in the same order. So from your perspective, each user will see the teams in the order that they set them. They will see the channels. The channel lineup will be those that they have favorited. And their bookmarks are their own. No one else sees those. But the order of the tabs and everything that goes on in the channels themselves, all the conversations, those are public for everyone to see. Great. So I want to just click on, let's say, the attendees channel to show that all the customization we've done here in budget with the task list and renaming Wiki and adding that project budget, that was specific to the budget channel. And here in this attendees channel or chat room, we just have this post from Ruby, and it says here, I vote that every week some take turns bringing candy. Okay, let's put a bookmark on that one as well so we can remember to come back to that item. And you'll notice when Marcus does that, it saves it up in the saved profile. So typically, when I start my day, first thing I'll do is I'll go look at activity, and on my mobile device, I'm checking activity probably 5 or 6 times a day. And it only takes a moment. So we can see that there are 3 items in activity. Also notice before we click on that, just for a second, I want to notice that if you're on the receiving end of an important post, it will put an exclamation mark in the left rail. So you can see the urgent channel has an exclamation mark. So that helps you find important messages. But let's go up to activity, and we can at least clear the recent activity. So this shows all the activity that we're participating in, and these, think of the activity app as being the one inbox that Teams adds to your work life. So of course you've got your Outlook inbox, but this activity app is in the sort the inbox for Teams, and you can see the different types of notifications you get by clicking on the funnel icon and at the top of the left rail. So we can see, we can focus on the ones that are unread, the at mentions, the replies, where we're following a particular channel. Let's click on following to see where there's a post on a channel we're following, and Ruby has given us this important message about Casual Friday, that everyone should wear pants. Okay, let's give her a thumbs up on that one. And let's go back to our funnel and look at all the times we've been at mentioned, because that's probably the key thing anyone's interested in is their personal at mentions. And when we've read all of these, then we are pretty much up to speed. And what I typically do is if there's a post that requires a long response on my mobile device, I'll use a bookmark, and then I will go back and try to find all of those items that I've bookmarked. And to do that, let's go up to the profile picture in the upper right, and we can see what's there. You can change your profile picture. You can set your availability. You can look at the saved item, which is what we're going to do. We can look at settings, help, keyboard shortcuts. So if you want to become speedy with Teams, look at the keyboard shortcuts. Check for updates, download the mobile app, etc. If you have to change tenants, you can do some now. But I really recommend that you do that by opening a new browser, going to teams.microsoft.com, and then using the anonymous or in private mode so you don't sign out of your single sign-on on your own tenant, but you can just do that in that anonymous or in private mode in the browser. Let's click on Saved to show all the items we've bookmarked. And as we catch up with Ruby about the candy dish, we can unbookmark that either in the left rail or in the main arena. Clicking again to the left rail, it takes us to the other item, and we can unbookmark that as well. And there's a real feeling of, ready to start my day when I've cleared activity and I've cleared the saved. So now let's click on chat. This is probably the most popular application as part of Teams. And I mentioned earlier a team can have as many as 2,500 people, and it can have as many as 200 channels. Now, a chat is a way you can have a side conversation with a smaller group of people. And let's start by, you can also have a chat with a bot. So let's talk about the T-bot. This is a great way if you had a question about how to follow a channel. You can do that by just typing that question, how do I follow a channel? If you forgot that part of my demo earlier. And T-bot will come back and it'll find the relevant information looking in the Help and FAQ tabs. You'll notice the tabs are different in chat. You'll also notice that there aren't threads in chat. So it's just a back and forth conversation without the ability to reply to individual posts. So, chat's limited in some ways, but it's got some other capabilities. Whenever people come to T-bot for the first time, I encourage them to click on the star at the top of T-bot. So that sets it as a favorite so you can easily find it again later. And one of the reasons you're going to want to come back to it is if you have someone new to join the team or you want to find out about some capability, you may go into Videos, the fourth tab, and look at these short, helpful videos covering everything we've talked about, plus some other things like calling and meetings. And you can go through all these in about 20 minutes. But if you do that with a new colleague on the team, they can become quickly productive on Teams. So there's a fifth tab called What's New. In order to get there, though, I recommend you go to the search box and put in a / and you can see all of the shortcuts in Teams for navigating quickly through different services, setting your status, finding files, going to individual channels, etc. The second to last one is What's New, and that brings us right into the last tab in, or second to last tab in T-bot, and you can see that Teams is on a pace to ship 10 to 20 significant features every month. So the product is constantly evolving. You'll notice occasionally when you start it up in the morning, it might refresh, and that's typically an update. But it's worth reading these What's New articles on a regular basis. If we go down to, I think it was March 14th, there is a helpful article. There we go. There's a link on guest access. So I mentioned that some of the channels have guests, and this article explains how you can take advantage of guest access. It's also for how your IT department can control guest access within your organization, and you may have it turned off, but it's a great way to add customers, partners, suppliers to your conversations, and guests have access to all the conversations in a particular team, so all the channels in a team. They can also chat with individuals on that same team. But they don't have access to everything. They cannot search for other teams. They cannot search for other people outside of the members of the team. They can't create meetings. A few other things they can't. And all that, their limitations are explained there. Okay, let's hit the back arrow to go, or you can click on chat. Actually, you can just click on the chat app. So we get back into chat, and you can see a number of people are suggested. Let's have a conversation with Ruby, And to do that, let's click on the paper and pen icon at the top of the left rail and type in Ruby's name. Perfect. And this will start a new conversation with Ruby. And let's, in the message body, in the chat box, let's say, Ruby, do you have any ideas for training materials? Perfect. And there's a few things. You'll notice that there are a different number of tabs for a one-on-one conversation as we're having now with Ruby. And there's a few tabs here. There's Files, which is familiar. Instead of saving in SharePoint, when you're in a conversation, when you're in a chat, it will save your files in your personal OneDrive for Business. So that way it isn't shared with everyone on the team, it's just shared with those individuals in a chat, and you can have as many as 20 people in a chat. You can also click on the Organization tab, and that will show you the Active Directory information to see where Ruby sits in the organization. So you can go ahead and click on that, Marcus. Okay, I think we might be actually in a different view of Ruby here. Let's click on activity and just see. Okay, there we go. Yeah, thank you. Then that's a good way to do it. So we can see Alan's information here. I don't know if there's any. Let's click on Bill, and we can see the activity that you've had with Bill. I think that might be a little bit more active. So he's done at least one post. And the nice thing about looking at the activity is you can easily find something that someone might have posted to you and mentioned in a face-to-face meeting. So just the other day, someone said that they had updated something, and I didn't know where they had done it. So it was easy for me to find by looking at by initiating a chat with them and then looking in activity. So let's click on the response with Marcus, or excuse me, the response with Ruby, and we can see that she's added some additional training materials. And you'll also notice that there's a plus sign for one-on-one chats, but it's different than what you have for channels, and it's also different from what you have for group chats. So we can have a really good special chat room, if you will, just with Ruby. And for example, in regular meetings, Marcus and Ruby might want to go over the metrics on their performance on opportunities. So let's click on Power BI, and we can give an example of metrics. So let's change the name of the tab to metrics, and we can choose the Contoso Opportunities Report. So it will bring up this this report right here, and this is a fully functional report. You can apply filters, etc., to find just the information that you want looking at this Power BI report. Let's click on plus one more time, and say, for example, we wanted to add the training notification to the website to promote it publicly. We might want to bring in the Valorum website, so let's change the name of this tab to Valorum and put in the URL, just pulling that from a browser. You'll notice it's using secure HTTP or HTTPS is the other way of finding that, and that's required from a security perspective. Part of our ISO and SOC standards require that we don't have regular HTTP, but we only use secure HTTP as tabs. So this is an example of how you can customize an individual chat. Now, if we wanted to add additional people, we could go to the circle with people in it and the plus sign in the upper right. We could put in Bill's name, for example, and click Add. And now we're starting a new conversation, and we can ask Bill that same question. We can do @Bill, so you can use @ in chats. and ask him, can you help with training materials? And hit return. And you'll notice that there's only 2 tabs. When you have more than 2 people in a conversation, the group chats, which can be up to 20 people in size, only have these 2 tabs, conversations and files. And as I mentioned earlier, the files are stored in your OneDrive for Business. Going up to where there's the pen, you could rename this as training materials. So you can rename the group chats, which make it helpful. Excellent. Okay, well, we just have a few minutes left, so I just want to show a few more aspects of Teams, particularly how to, again, drive all your information into your activity app, so that really becomes your inbox for Teams. So let's go up to the profile picture and customize some of the settings. Going down to settings, one thing that's worth pointing out in passing is that there's this option of a dark theme. Many people find this more restful for their eyes to have the white font for the text on top of dark background. And then let's click on notifications. And you'll often see the defaults are banner and email for the top 3. I think it's good to really have an emphasis on personal @mentions. So frequently, we'll have as many as a dozen @mentions in a given post. And sometimes people will reply to the post by @mentioning someone else, which is almost the equivalent of forwarding an email message. But I think the emphasis should be on personal @mentions. The channel mentions you can have a little less prominent by, instead of getting an email for them, you could get a banner. And the team @mentions you might want to have just show up in the feed. So you have these options of customizing these. I think it's appropriate to sort of agree on what your group norm is. If you focus on personal @mentions, believe me, in the end, you all save more time, because it creates a little bit more work for the person who's posting, and it saves everyone else the burden of reading posts that really might not be specific to them. Then there's other ways you can customize the notifications you get on your messages. But I think another thing that it's worth agreeing with on the team is that instead of having the default email frequency of once every hour, that you set that to something shorter, like once every 10 minutes. And the benefit to this is that if someone posts in, say, an urgent channel and you're not in Teams, after 10 minutes, you'll get that in email. So if you don't read something in your activity app within 10 minutes, you'll get an email about it when you've set this setting. And when you go on vacation, you may want to turn those notifications off until you get back home, for example. So those are just different ways, particularly if you're going to be really away and not online, then you can set those notifications off. Maybe you want to set a reminder for yourself in Outlook to turn them back on when you rejoin. But it's a great way of minimizing the amount of traffic you get in your email. So that is a quick overview of Teams. We're at time. I know there's a few questions I wasn't able to get to. I will be following up in email. I want to thank Marcus and Ruby for helping me demonstrate Teams, the hub for teamwork in Office 365, and to all of you for your attention today. I would recommend that each of you, as a project team, commit to use Teams for just 1 week on a particular project. And I think you'll find after the end of that week that everyone will agree that Teams will definitely save them time. And if you get half a dozen or so projects, you may be saving as much as an hour a day using Teams versus relying on Outlook and Yammer that aren't as well suited for the types of projects that the market is requiring of all of us today. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.